What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. The road to predict all 136 FBS level college football teams this summer is now going to take us into the islands on the West Coast. We are in Manoa, Hawaii, as we are talking about the Rainbow Warriors out of the Mountain West Conference. Can they take that next step back into a bowl game this season? My name is Nate Pope, otherwise known as Tailgate Nate. Thank you all so much for clicking on this video, and most importantly, for helping to support the channel. You want to support the channel further, go down below, hit that subscribe button, and while you're at it, you might as well ring the bell. Turning on notifications ensures you won't miss anything this college football season, especially even during the rest of prediction season. Don't have that many teams left, and I'm a sports media graduate delving in to the professional world of the industry. If you want to see all the cool stuff I get up to while still being up to date on what goes on this channel, then please give me a follow at TailgateNate29, Twitter, Instagram, and feel free to email me, tailgatenate29@gmail.com. I want to thank you all so much for supporting and interacting with me and the channel in whatever way you may be doing so. Let's now talk about Timmy Chang and the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. Of course, a legend as a player, now being the head coach. Timmy Chang, the era started off really slow, and deservedly so. There was a lot of concern and criticism from the Rainbow Warrior faithful. However, last year was a very good step in the right direction. You just missed out on a bowl game. So now the expectation level going to change a lot here for Timmy Chang. He is expected to reach that postseason appearance, and this is a Hawaii program that is expected, and I think for a lot of good reason, to take another step forward this season. How do we do preview predictions here on the channel? Well, we are going to go through a roster overview, offense over here to the left, defense over here to the right, and at the end of the video, we will dive on into the football schedule. I'll give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. This video overall is here to tell all of you what I think about the Rainbow Warriors here in 2025. But before we do get started, right down below me are returning production numbers. They factor in portal additions up to a certain percentage, but it really isn't that high. And then recruiting and transfer portal ranks for the class of 2025 are both according to 24/7 Sports. All that now is said and done and out of the way. I will apologize for mispronunciations throughout this video, of which there could be several of them, and it could start right here, but I think I got this one down. Anthony Arseno or Arkeno. I realize it can be pronounced both ways, whichever way is correct. But he's your offensive coordinator this season, and as you start taking a look into the offensive room, you realize that there's going to be a new quarterback in town here. Starter Braden Shager leaves as what was a really, really good quarterback for this Hawaii program over the course of his career. Now, last year, his production dropped off from where it was in 2023, where he had over 3,500 yards and had a career-high completion percentage, career-high touchdowns a couple years ago. But last year, nearly 2,600 yards, 19 touchdowns, 13 picks on 58% completion percentage. Interceptions were always his struggle. All of his seasons as the primary starter, he threw at least 10 interceptions. So, okay, who's going to come in to replace him? Well, you do have a couple transfers in this room. You do have Luke Weaver. You do have Demarcus Davis, who is coming from UCLA. Weaver, I think, coming from a junior/community college. But Micah Alejado played a little bit last year and not enough to take the red shirt off of him. He still classifies as a redshirt freshman. But, man, with what he showed, this is some real promise out of Micah Alejado, my apologies. 70 passes were thrown by him last year. He completed 49 of them, and for those math nerds out there, that is a 70% completion percentage. 585 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. So if he can expand upon that and continue to do things like that up into this coming season, I think you're going to see Alejado be a really nice option. Shager last year did lead the, or I should say not led the team, was second on the team in rushing with 259 yards. He only averaged 1.9 yards per carry, but you got to factor in sack yardage there as well. Alejado had 67 yards on 20 carries. He actually had quite a bit more yards carry than what Shager had. So if he can factor in the run game to that as well, then that is be a really good thing for this Hawaii offense. I think Alejado shows a lot of promise, and I think he can be a pretty good quarterback here for this Rainbow team. Now, I did get ahead of myself, or I almost got ahead of myself a little bit by saying that Braden Shager led the team. Well, he did lead the team in a rushing stat. He had 6 rushing touchdowns. Put that in your back pocket. Remember it here in about 30 seconds. Your top 3 running backs are going to return. There's the good news in this running back stable. You're going to return your leading rusher, Landon Sims, Cam Barfield, Christian Vaughn, and even a guy that probably more than likely is just going to be a depth piece, but is still really experienced as a redshirt senior in David Cordero. Yep, you're going to get him back there as well. So you get a lot of returning pieces. Here is the downside. Sims did lead the team with only 351 yards. What's more, the team only got 3.4 yards per carry. And you pull that pin out of the sticky note of the fact I told you to remember earlier, in which I'll repeat it. Shager's 6 rushing touchdowns led the team. The team as a whole, 7 rushing touchdowns as a team last year, and your quarterback, who is now gone, had 6 of them. That to me is a major, major concern. You need this rushing attack to be a good complement to the passing attack that, as we're going to dive into right now, has a lot of really good pieces coming back. While there is some depth that is gone, your 2 main guys do come back. Nick Senecal as well as Pofele Ashlock. They both returned. Senecal with 721 yards and 6 touchdowns last year, 629 yards and 6 touchdowns for Ashlock, and they are by far and away, or I should say were by far and away, the 2 most reliable options on this team. Now, I understand this is a little bit more of a pass-heavy offense. They threw the ball a whole lot more than they ran the ball last season. But you need your running backs to contribute more than just 1 touchdown and 3.4 yards per carry when your leading rushers only got 351 yards. Well, A, it probably better be a by committee running back room, or B, it tells you that you likely need some improvement. Now, this is a team that does not utilize their tight ends that often in the receiving game. They act a little bit more like your traditional pass blocking, run blocking tight end, sort of as that extra offensive lineman. You only had 1 catch from tight end last year. Now, that's not to say there are still some good experience pieces here who can't provide value in that area of the game, but I'm just telling you that's not the way that Hawai'i utilizes their tight ends. However, from the offensive line, massive improvement is going to be needed from a unit that really does have a lot coming back to it. But again, there is massive improvement. 43 sacks last year. That has got to change. Now, give some credit where credit is due. They did overall protect Alejado a little bit better than they protected Shager. Only 3 sacks to him, while Shager got sacked 39 times, and there was an additional sack in there as well. But this is an offensive line that, while it does get some transfers in, mainly they are projected to play backup roles. However, at the center position, there is going to be a battle with Ethan Spencer, a redshirt junior, I believe a guy that returns to the offensive line, and then Tautai Leo Marks is a transfer coming in, a graduate transfer who is in from Tulsa, also formerly of Colorado State, and he played football at Mater Dei High School. So there is that level of pedigree with him there. This is still overall a really experienced offensive line, and overall it's a really experienced offense. You see the seniors and juniors, and oh, I forgot to mention there are a couple of transfer pieces that enter the wide receiver room as well, Jackson Harris being the most notable from Stanford. You also did get Joey Farthing over from Youngstown State. Now, Harris is a little bit on the younger side, and for the most part, you're going to have juniors, seniors, aside from the 1 sophomore in Jackson Harris. But the caveat is, A, you need a lot of improvement from a ton of different areas, offensive line, running back room, whatever. Micah Alejado, I think I mentioned it earlier, is just a redshirt freshman. So you're going to have a very experienced offensive group led by a very young, inexperienced piece, albeit he showed good things last year at the quarterback position. So just some things to keep an eye on. Defense, however, does return a whole lot more production when Dennis Thurman is coaching this half football game this year, forcing more takeaways. I think just going to be a big key, as well as finding more consistency. You didn't have a guy with over 60 tackles last year. You didn't have a guy with over 5 sacks last year, although 2 of them did hit that mark, which honestly pretty solid. But then in the turnover margin, you only forced 11 turnovers, 6 interceptions, 5 fumbles recovered, and albeit while the ratio is pretty good, you did only force 6 fumbles. You want to get a little bit more than that. But I think that, being able to generate the takeaways and change the game a little bit. Going to be, I think, a big point of contention, as well as, again, that overall consistency maybe can improve some of the fundamentals there as well. But you did have this really was not necessarily a by committee defense, but there were a ton of guys that got involved last year. And you are going to be losing some solid pieces. Even though 65% does return, you still lose some solid guys, such as half of your sack leader tandem. Again, I told you 2 guys had 5 sacks last year. Well, that number did lead the team, and your leading tackler among the two, and Elijah Robinson, is going to be gone. 51 tackles and the aforementioned 5 sacks for him last year. However, the other half is going to be coming back. That is Jackie Johnson. He is from Hawaii. 20 tackles and 5 sacks for him last year. So compared to his I guess tackle to sack ratio, he was a whole lot more efficient. And this still is a team that, overall, a unit on the defensive front that does have some good pieces, but it needs to develop that depth. Now, transfers are going to help with that. You do get Dejon Benton, who's a graduate student coming over from New Mexico. You get Luther McCoy, who's another graduate student, and he comes over from Minnesota. They were some pretty good defensive players over there. And then a redshirt junior, whose name I know I will butcher. He's from Utah, and Kaeo Akana. You're going to get him coming in as well. As against some other pieces, Jamar Sakona in the interior is not too bad. Tariq Jones on the outside is going to fill the gap that Elijah Robinson leaves, so on and so forth. So when you take a look at your defensive line, though, it really is about developing that talent and then just, again, finding the pieces that are going to step in for what you lost last year. Your linebacker room does lose some major contributors. However, others are coming back. Jemai Otis, hopefully said that first name correctly. Jalen Smith, those are guys that are coming back. Otis was the leading tackler last year. And autocorrect got me on that one. There is no A in that name. It is Otis. Again, he was the leading tackler last year, 55 tackles, 2 sacks. Again, Smith, not a bad piece last year either, 41 tackles, a sack. He did also pick off a pass last season, and you're going to get a lot of other really nice pieces returning to this room as well. So you do get some solid pieces back in this linebacking unit and an overall unit that I think is going to be pretty solid this season. Now, your interception leader, Cam Stone, he is gone. Told you they only had 5 picks last year. Cam Stone had 2 of those, as well as he led the team in passes defended with 8 of them. So you're going to be losing him, as well as some other really important pieces. You are going to be losing your second leader in passes defended. Caleb Brown has transferred over to Virginia Tech. You still get some really nice defensive pieces back. Peter Manuma is going to be the leader among those. Justin Sinclair, you're going to be getting him back. I think that is a really nice piece coming back, even though he might be more of a depth role this year. And then some more guys, Elijah Palmer, Verdell Edwards, and some other names, Devin King, and some other names that you can throw in there as well. You're going to have a new kicker this year, while your punter is set to come in via the transfer portal. That's all from special teams. Hey, we got to show them love. Kickers are people too. So bam, when you take a look overall at this team defensively, I think they're going to wind up being pretty okay as long as they can make the necessary adjustments. Obviously, some of the fundamentals and the general stats such as yardage allowed, points allowed, that's got to get better. But if you can force more takeaways, find overall that consistency and being able to be disruptive and slowing down the opposing offense, and if Micah Alejado is going to be everything that he showed us at the quarterback position this year, when you take a look at the Hawaii football schedule, it honestly can be pretty manageable. Now, you do have some odd games in there that are going to end up causing you a fair bit of trouble, and we'll talk about them when they get there. But Hawaii does start their season a lot earlier than most, as they are one of the few teams to play in week 0. You can take a look at the schedule, but we're going to take a look down below at these odds courtesy of FanDuel. Not me telling you to go place your money. I am never one to give out gambling advice. It just provides some good context to how good the odds makers think Hawaii is going to be this year. We know they got some pretty long odds to get into the playoffs. We understand that. Plus 2,000 odds to win the conference doesn't sound too bad, but it is one of the longer odds in the Mountain West. 5.5, though, I really do agree with that win total because their first game of the season is probably their biggest swing game of the year. You have to play the Stanford Cardinal, and the reason it's a big swing game is I know Hawaii is still trying to build, and Timmy Chang is still trying to set in his foundation. but you do get one of the worst Power 4 teams, or I should say projected to be one of the worst Power 4 teams this season. I would not be shocked at all if Hawaii won this game. The way I had my predictions working out this year, it just did not come to be. I still think Stanford has got some pieces to where they can be sneaky competitive this year. I know they lost a ton, and Elijah Brown's going to be taking over the quarterback position, but I think you got some solid wide receiver pieces. I do like Micah Ford as that running back. Defensively, yeah, there's a lot that's going to have to change, but some nice pieces do return there, as well as some good transfers, Hunter Barth, Jordan Washington, and much like Stanford was last year, there are going to be moments where they're sneaky competitive, and I think especially this young quarterback settling in, it might not be too pretty for him in his first game. Now, again, you can call this a gut feeling. You can call it an upset. You can call it whatever. I think Hawaii overall is going to prove to be the better team than Stanford throughout this season. However, maybe trying to fit in some of these new pieces offensively, defensively, you struggle a little bit. Again, it is of equal likelihood, and maybe even more so, that Hawaii wins that game. And look, just to be fully transparent with you, that's a game right there that if they don't win that one, making it to a bowl game could end up being pretty difficult. But we will continue on when we talk about Arizona and Hawaii playing them. This is that week 1 game, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on Arizona this year. I really do. I do think that this is a team that is probably going to end up being a lot better than some people may think. Because I love what they did in the transfer portal, especially in their wide receiver room. I really, really do like it. They got guys like Chris Hudson, Luke Wysong, and some other pieces I do like. Ismail Mahdi coming into play running back. He was a really good piece over there with Texas State. I think he'll be a good piece here. You still have Noah Fafita coming back at the quarterback position. And I like a lot of the pieces you brought in defense, or I should say you have returning defensively, getting Javion Cole, who didn't play much at Texas but was a star over at San Jose State. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Arizona this year. I also really like their head coach, Brent Brennan. I think that's a team that you absolutely have to watch out for. And Arizona gets Hawaii, especially when the Rainbow Warriors have to go on the road. However, I do think you're going to start picking up some wins here. Now, Sam Houston is another one of these games where I think you could go back and forth with. And this could be another one of those games that if you don't win this one, even if you so happen to lose to Stanford like I'm predicting, if you don't win this one, maybe it's going to be a little difficult for you to get to a bowl game. And I still think Sam Houston, after a really, really good season last year, they're still going to be pretty solid this year. You have a returning quarterback in Hunter Watson. You have some good returning skill position and defensive pieces, although most of the defense is going to be entering through the transfer portal. In fact, honestly, Sam Houston might actually be replacing all of their defensive starters now that I think about it. Either way, a lot's going to be coming in through the transfer portal defensively to really revamp that unit, and Phil Longo as that head coach, hey, he's been in the program before, he knows what it's about. However, I think Sam Houston, with everything that's changing, even with the constant quarterback, even with the head coach, especially with this road trip, they're really, really going to struggle. And I do think that Sam Houston does, in fact, see a little bit of a struggle to start the season. I don't think they're going to be very good through non-conference play. Now, once they find their footing, I think Sam Houston's going to be dangerous. So Houston is thankful they get them in the early part of the year, where I think they do beat them at home. You also do get Portland State at home, and this should be an easy, gimme, no-brainer. Hawaii should be able to win that game against Portland State. So now you move on into conference play. Week 4 is your first conference game, and you got to go up against the Fresno State Bulldogs. This is a team that, it could see some real nice growth this season. You are going to be getting a new head coach in Matt Entz. He's coming over from North Dakota State. Well, yeah, you know the pedigree that North Dakota State has. Matt Entz was that head coach, getting E.J. Warner at the quarterback position. He can be a little bit interception happy, so we'll see what happens with him. But overall, I really like his potential. Some really good pieces in the wide receiver room, such as Josiah Freeman, and Corey Foreman returns defensively to lead a solid defensive unit. I think Fresno State's going to be a really solid team out of the Mountain West this year, and that will be a loss for Hawaii. I also think them going on the road and playing Air Force is a loss there as well. In my mind, there's no way the Falcons have as bad of a season as they did last year. they really were reeling and lost a ton from 2023 to 2024. Now 2024 to 2025, they return a lot of their starters from last season. They're getting some pretty good, exciting younger pieces that are going to step up and play big roles for them as well. And while depth can be a concern in some areas, with how this Air Force team under Troy Calhoun usually plays, I think you're going to see an increase this season, and Air Force is going to be a lot better. So, okay, you drop your first 2 games in conference play, albeit they're probably 2 opponents that will finish with a better record than you at the end of the year. Cool, no big deal. You do get Utah State at home, and I do think this is going to be a game where Hawaii wins. I got a lot of questions here for Utah State. I'm just not real high on Bronco Mendenhall and the Aggies yet. Bronco Mendenhall could try to turn this team in the right direction. He was starting to get on that path at New Mexico before taking the Utah State job. Bryson Barnes is at quarterback. Again, I think he's okay, and I'm not thrilled by any name in this quarterback room, to be honest. And while some solid portal pieces come in, I think the building process is going to start with Bronco Mendenhall this year, and he didn't even see bountiful, plentiful amounts of success over at New Mexico. I think the talent level is going to increase here at Utah State, and they could be overall solid, but I think it's a struggle to establish that system. Next couple of games here are going to be really hard for Hawaii to win. On the road against Colorado State, I think that's a loss, even though there is no more Torrey Horton, one of the better wide receivers in the Mountain West. Colorado State does return the likes of Braden Fowler Nicolosi. Really, really good quarterback for this team over the years, and he's going to be another good one this upcoming season. They got some really nice portal pieces coming into the pass-catching room, some nice defensive pieces, especially in that front 7, such as Jacob Ellis and others, and I think Colorado State under Jay Norvell, still dangerous, and San Jose State will be that as well. Many phenomenal returning pieces. Walker Agette, Floyd Chalk back at the running back room, really good wide receiver room, and a defense that I think could see some significant improvement and be one of the better units in the Mountain West Conference this year. So you're right now at 6 losses. You would need to win out if you were to get to a bowl game. Well, I think you start that trek out on the right foot before your final bye week of the season. You get to play San Diego State. It has not been the tenure that Sean Lewis dreamt it to be, because this is a San Diego State team that was kind of flipping roles, right? Brady Hoke, a defensive-minded guy. Sean Lewis had always been an offensive-minded coach, and so they really were flipping the roles there. They were doing the old role reversal at their head coaching position. Well, it just never really, I should say it hasn't worked out yet. I think the Aztecs are going to see their improvement this year as the system just gets more enveloped and Sean Lewis starts to get his recruits and his guys in there, but I still don't think it's that successful of a season for San Diego State, at least not like we were seeing back in the Brady Hoke era. So, okay, now I do think you beat Wyoming, as Wyoming is going to struggle to establish that identity still under Jay Sawvell. Maybe they can get it going. The fans in Laramie are really going to help. But that game's not in Laramie. It is in the islands, and I think Hawaii will beat Wyoming. So it all comes down as to whether or not you can pull off an upset against UNLV. And sorry to say, I just don't think that that happens. I still think UNLV, even with everything they replaced, they have a really good head coach in Dan Mullen coming out of retirement. I still think they have some really, really good talent. And this overall is a UNLV team that I still think is the best competition to Boise State in this conference. So there you go. There's the schedule predicted. And you look down below at that 5-7 mark, and Hawaii fans put the hands in the head. I know. Just the way I have it working out, I do not have Hawaii making a bowl game. However, that being said, I could easily see this team getting into the postseason. They can, I think, pretty easily get past Stanford. Now, with the rest of the predictions, again, I already have you winning that other swing game against Sam Houston. You do have a lot of tricky games, and a lot of your trickier games you get on the road. Colorado State, San Jose State, UNLV, Air Force, those are all teams that you have to go play on the road. Now, you do avoid Boise State, which is good, but you get a lot of the other heavy hitters in this conference. I think even if they win that game at Stanford, it could be pretty difficult for this team to get into the postseason play. I still got a lot of questions. Talent, I think, is still going to be there, but this is a Hawaii team that I think, as they continue to build, falls just short this season. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Hey, remember to play hard but tailgate harder, and I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.